Hey everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Hope you're having a great day. Today what we're going to play with is embossed resist using dye-based inks. So this is a panel that I have previously heat embossed, and I'm going to show you what that looks like and how we do that. But basically all of this shine and this beautiful color that's on here, like this really pretty silver, when we utilize our ink pads, okay, any dye-based ink will work, distressed oxides, distressed inks, memento, any kind of ink actually. You can even do this with pigment ink, but it's a little challenging with pigment because it sits on top and it doesn't dry very well. So when you go back at the end to buff off the inks and things like that, you'll often end up wiping off a lot of it. So you want something that's going to saturate your paper, which is in general a dye-based ink, okay, or water-based ink. So this is what it's going to look like. And I have a couple of panels here that I'm going to work on, but my brushes into buddy here. First of all, let's do some stamping. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to heat emboss. See, you might know this, but I don't want to take it for granted that you may know, you may not know. So I've got my stamping platform here, and I'm going to use a larger stamp. You can use this on any kind of stamp. You can use word sentiments, you can use flowers, you can use silhouettes like fairies, things like that. I'm going to stamp a background stamp. Okay. So I've already put it here into my stamping platform, and I'm going to, so I kind of know where I've kind of positioned it a little bit, and I'm going to add my paper into here. Okay. The first thing that I want to do, because I'm going to be heat embossing, and I've been touching my paper, so even though, sorry, I was inking earlier, so you can see some ink on my fingers. They're not normally this dirty. But because I've been touching my paper and things like that, even though it feels like my fingers are dry, there's oils and things. And so when you're using embossing powder and you've been touching your paper, that little bit of ink, even though you can't feel it, your paper will feel it and possibly absorb it a little bit. And that will create spaces where your embossing powder might stick to. So we want to use an embossing buddy or an embossing bag. So in here, I actually have two of them. This is a little bag that's filled with, I think it's like cornstarch and talcum kind of thing. Because I really don't like the feeling of that powder, you can see a little bit of the powder there in the bottom of my container. Because I really don't like that powder, I put a little buffalo clip on it so I don't have to touch it. But even better, I just got this really cool new tool. It's called, this is a different kind of embossing buddy. And so it actually looks like a makeup brush. And so in the bottom here is the anti-static powder. This is what these are, is anti-static tools. And when I pull this off, it has this really cool, like almost like a makeup brush. And I'm not going to do it now because it's already loaded, because when I put the thing away, basically when you pull it up and push it down, the powder that's in the bottom here goes up into the brush. So I don't even have to touch it, which is just bloody awesome. I can't even tell you. So I'm going to powder my paper here. Okay. Okay, and you can sort of see in a couple of areas here where the powder has gone. So now we're going to, and you can see it on the brush here where it's starting to turn a little white. So as I go like this, in order to put the lid back on my anti-static tool here, like that, when I push this, so you can see here where the where all of the powder is, as I push this, it's going to push some up into the brush for the next time when I'm ready to use it. Okay, I'm going to give that a little bit of a blow to get it off of my paper so I don't have any loose sitting on there. Okay, now I'm going to take my clear embossing ink. Now I could do this with any kind of pigment ink if I wanted my lines to have a color to them or something like that. But I want this to, I'm actually going to want it to be white because of the colors that I'm going to use. But for this particular one, I want to, so I'm going to use my clear embossing ink. So I'm using Versamark. For me, Versamark is my favorite. It's a watermark stamp pad. Okay. My pad looks pretty dirty, but that's okay. It's just a lot of stuff that's stuck to it, but it's still willy juicy. It's good. This is not going to transfer onto my project. And I'm going to ink up really well my stamp. Okay. I just used this earlier today, this stamp, so I didn't have to condition it. But if you have a brand new stamp, make sure that you're either stamping it multiple times or rubbing your fingers along it. That helps to take some of the manufacturing process because there is a bit of a coating on your stamp. And in order to get a better stamped image, you want to rub your fingers on it. And my putting here. Okay. And so I'm going to lift the door. Oh, I messed that up a little bit. Okay. And I'm just using my little, I have a little, this is a air hockey puck, and it helps me add good pressure all the way around. Okay. The paper that I'm using now, so because I used my anti-static pad or my anti-static tool, there is a little bit of powder that is still on there. So I like to, if I'm going to be heat embossing, I like to stamp twice, which is why I'm using my stamping platform. If you don't have a stamp platform, go ahead and put your embossing powder on. You don't have to wait. You can just add your powder and go to town. But just to make sure, because sometimes when you stamp down, every place that had this sticky ink on the edges of your stamp might just lift the powder and not actually have the sticky ink adhering to your cardstock. So you want to, if you can, stamp again. First mark, put that away. Put this over. Okay. And this little tool just allows me to get good coverage all the way along. You can just use your fingers, pull off your sleeve and kind of just buff it along, that kind of thing. You don't want to add a ton of pressure, like you don't want to push too hard, because when you do that, you make the lines of your stamp, they're supposed to be a certain fineness to them, but when you push them down, you actually squish them out a little bit, and so you make them a little thicker than they're actually meant to be, which is, it's not the end of the world when you're using a stamp like this, although these stars are a little fine, but they're not that bad. But if you're using sentiments and things like that, you can really tell, like a letter, if particularly if it's a fairly fine line on your sentiment, and you push too hard, all of a sudden, like, let's say it says bold in your heart, and you end up with bold, but the in, if you squish it too much, your in your eye might be dotted, it's lowercase or something like that, and all of a sudden it looks like a really weird letter or something that's illegible. That's actually not the fault of your stamp, that's your stamping technique. Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna take this out, and so here you can see where some of my powder, embossing powder there, a little bit at the top there, kind of got a little stuck on my pad here, and that's okay. Okay, this to the side. Okay. So I'm going to pull out, this is just a little silicone pad that I like to heat emboss on so that it doesn't sit on my metal platform here or on my desk, because my heat tool will get hot enough. Even though it's quite quiet, my heat tool will get quite warm. Yeah, and I don't want it to be warm or end up melting or creating like a nice burn mark or something on my desk. So I'm just going to use I'm going to do this one in clear. So everything that is going to be behind the stamp, we're going to trap behind the stamp, is going to be white, because the cardstock that I used is white. Now, if I was stamping this and using clear detail embossing powder, it would be, and I was using black cardstock or navy cardstock, then that would be the color that would be trapped below my embossing powder, basically. So, but this one, I'm just going to be using clear detailed. So it picks up, and in general, I just buy the detailed ones. I don't need to have umpteen like clear and then clear detail or microfine or any of that. I just always buy the detailed in both my white and my clear, because that's what you're going to use the most. So you might as well, instead of having to have umpteen different kinds and vials of embossing powder there, like in your stash, you don't need that many. Just just get the clear. And in fact, I recommend not buying black embossing powder. Just buy clear and use a black pigment ink, or white, or sorry, not white, but you could use white, but use a colored pigment ink instead of having to do like having all the different colors of the rainbow for your embossing powders. You could have inks, because we use those for a lot of different techniques. You just have the clear and use a pigment powder instead. Weird stamp there. Oh, no, that's what it's supposed to be. Okay, So now I'm just going to emboss this. I'm going to heat this up using my heat it tool. And it's going to take a couple of minutes. This is not as fast as the rod style ones, but it's, as you can tell, it's much quieter. I can still talk to you while I'm actually doing this, but it does take a bit to heat up. Once it heats up, it takes, it goes really quite quick, but it does take a while to heat up. So you want to watch your project as you're going. And as soon as your embossing powder starts to shine, move on to the next area, because that means you've heated it. You don't want to burn your embossing powder. Clear and white on white. So when you're using clear embossing powder and white embossing powder on white is often very difficult to see. But if you just tilt it into the light, you can see when it starts to heat up. This is a technique that to me is always, well, heat embossing in general for me is really quite magical, because you take this thing that is a powder and just by heating it, all of a sudden it becomes this solid. So it changes the properties. So it's really kind of fun to watch, and a little magical that you take this thing. It feels like alchemy or some sort of magic or something, where you take it and what was one thing has now changed into something different. And if you're looking for a heat tool that is really great for using for a variety of things, this is a really good tool, because it's actually meant for mixed media. So you can dry paint and glue and things like that with it, as well as heat your projects and things like that. So without pushing, like if you were doing that with watercolors or trying to move things around, it'd be pretty, the barrel type heat guns tend to push everything around too much. So this is going to be my star clear. So these the stars will all show white behind. So I'm just going to put my little silicone heat pad back into my stash where I like to keep my where I keep all my embossing supplies. And so for my make art station, because I'm going to be doing some ink coloring, and despite the fact that I have ink all over my hands already, I would like to try and not have too much on. So the ones that I'm going to do today, I'm going to ink blend two different styles. So I'm going to let the stars that I just heat embossed, I'm just going to let those stay to the side for a little bit while I work on something different. And this is one that I had done earlier, and you can't quite see the pattern, but it's kind of this really cool stained glass look. And I'm going to start with this one. I'm just going to add some magnets here just to kind of hold my project in place. And I'm going to go for the first one that I'm going to do is kind of a rainbow blend. So I'm just going to blend, and I'm doing this on the clear ink. You'll be able to see that we'll be able to wipe that off, things like that. So you'll need some blending brushes and some dye-based inks. So the ones that I'm going to be using here is, these are by Lavinia Stamps, and this is the Elements. So these are water-based premium dye ink pads. So they're great for blending and for distressing. So you can see here in the top of my pad, I like to do watercoloring with these as well. So I'll squish the pad together, and like when it's on the top of it here, I'll just kind of push this down and I get ink in the top, and then I can add water in here, and that becomes my palette when I'm doing any kind of Lavinia stamps and things. But in the meantime, I like to dab off just a little bit so that I'm not coming super heavy onto my project here. And so I'm going to come in, I'm going to start just off here, and you can see that these are really nice and juicy ink pads, which is what you want. It makes your coloring or your blending so much easier. So the best way to get a good blend is to really saturate your paper. The more saturated your paper is, the more your colors will blend and move together. Okay, so I'm going to keep with my red out, but I'm going to get next my orange. And move this down a little bit and get my orange brush. So I'm going to ink up my orange brush, and I dab off into the lid, because again, this is ink. Instead of putting it on my work surface, dabbing off on my work surface, by putting it into the lid here, when I go to watercolor, I've already got a little bit here. So I just have to put a couple of drops that I can mix my paint in in here and use this as my palette. So I'm not wasting quite as much ink. And now for my orange, I'm going to start off of the page. And I'm going to bring this in a little bit more to my red because I want to have a nice transition. So you can see here, I don't have a really harsh line here because I really saturated the red and I really saturated the orange. So these blend really nicely together because the paper itself is well saturated. And I can bring back my red brush and just move that in and out just a little bit. And then that's how you get a couple of different tones. Okay. Move that to the side. Pretty much done with the red. We'll bring out the yellow. Okay, and again, you can see in here. So I dab off in here so that I can use this ink without having to waste it. Because everything on here, not that it's a waste per se, I could spray it with my water bottle and things like that. I just tend not to do that. That's not where my mind is at right at that particular time for my project. But by tapping it off in here, I can keep those inks without having to waste them per se. From the bottom. And I'm going to bring that yellow into the orange as well. So we're going up and down. So you want to make sure, again, if you're bringing it far enough up so that it starts to meld and I can see, I can pick up the ink that I've been dabbing off in here as well. I don't have to pick up from my ink pad. You can just pick up right from the palette that I've had here for myself. So again, I'm not wasting my ink. I want to make sure that I'm using as much of it as possible. Bring my orange in. Now, some of this is going to be trimmed down. So I don't, obviously on my edges and things like that, I don't need to have a perfect blend on the edges. I just want to make in the areas where I'm going to be utilizing it as my card front, make sure that those areas are looking how I want them to look. Okay. So I'm happy with my red into orange into yellow. That's looking good. So my next color is going to be a green. I'm gonna move these just out of the way a little bit. I want them still there so that they're still holding my project though, so I'm not having to stick my fingers in too much ink. Not that, you know, based on what I was doing here, not that it's going to make any difference. I was playing with pigment powders earlier. You'll see that video later, but yeah, I was having a good time. Okay. And again, I want to start off of the edge of my paper and I'm going to bring in my color in a circular motion. By starting off the edge of your paper and starting with circular motions, it'll also help you not end up getting a super hard edge because that's never fun having to try and fix that. And you can see here where my green and my yellows are already starting to blend a little bit. So I'm going to dab that off and I'm going to come in from this side because I've already got quite a bit of green on the go on the other side. Okay, so I'm happy with that green. I do want to come back in with a little bit of yellow. I can buff that back a little bit so that I still am going to have a line of yellow. You can see where my green has started to come up just a little bit too much into there. So I'm going to grab out my yellow pad here again, load up my yellow. There we go. Okay, so I've still got a really nice stripe of yellow going through here, and where my yellow and green is starting right here, I've got a really great kind of light, leafy spring green color on the go. So you're kind of looking at my embossing and it's like, it's not white under there anymore, green. Yeah, that's what happens, but you have to wait until the end of the project. Now we're going to pull out the blue color. And still got some room here. And I'm going to start again off of the edge, going all the way over. Oh, I guess I could tell you what the colors are that I'm using from Lavinia here. So this one is Blue Lagoon. I used Pine for the green color. And I used Sundance for my yellow. Russet Orange for the orange color. Ooh, that's going to be a nice blue there. And then Paprika for the red. Okay. So I want to make sure that I am picking this up and that I am taking it into the green. That's a pretty big stripe of green. So I want to make sure I'm going to get like a really cool kind of tealy turquoisey color. So you can see, and I've got the green into the blue as it starts to transition, and I'm getting this really nice sea green turquoisey color here. And I'm going to bring out my green brush and I'm going to go back over that. And a little bit more of the blue. Okay, I'm happy with that one. And now we're going to use our last color, which is going to be, again, by the Lavinia Elements, and it's Violet Chalk. I'm going to move this magnet over here, and then it's out of my way, and I'm starting off the edge of my paper. Nice, deep, purpley color. Bring back my blue, and I'm going to soften out, and I want to bring that purple and the blue together. This purple is such a nice deep dark color that it's actually gone a little far into my blue. So I'm going to get a little bit more blue, cut that off a little bit, and come in here along this edge and just add in more blue. So then I get kind of an indigo color. So I've got my purple into an indigo, into the blue. All right. We'll make sure this side's nice and deep here. There we go. Oh, I have to say, I think this is the best color blending I've ever done. It's a difference when you're trying to show off for people, eh? Okay, so I'm going to pick up my magnets now. And the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to clean off my work surface. Before I do anything else, I want to make sure that I'm cleaning off my work surface because that's going to end up, I'm sure I'll end up putting my sleeve in it. And for this particular thing, I also clean off my magnets because they have been sitting in this wet ink. And although it looks like it's absorbing into the paper, which it is, I also don't want to, the next time I go to use this, have ink adding to my project because it might be a color that I'm not necessarily looking for. Okay, so I'm just going to put this to the side for now. And so as you can see, there's a lot of rainbow colored ink on here, which if I were to spray that, might end up having like mud kind of thing. So I'm not going to spray it. I'm just going to wipe it up here. Clean that off. Enough. Okay, and I'm going managed to get some on my desk there. And I'll grab a piece of paper gel. This enough. Project on. Now, so you can kind of see here that the ink has taken on or taken on some of the colors. So it's not super crisp and white. So what I want to do now is I'm going to go back and I'm going to buff my ink. And so you can see here where I'm starting to lift off a lot of that ink. And now we're starting to lighten up the color. So we're getting more white from behind the clear embossing ink. Although my inks have done a fairly decent job of actually staining my embossing powder here, but if you keep rubbing, so I'm not going to rub it all off because I don't need it to be that, I don't need it to be that white. I actually am liking the colors. I think that it makes it look not quite so harsh when it's not super stark white, but show you. Whoopsie. Okay, so you can use a paper towel. What's nice about the paper towel to get the first part of it off is because you're actually picking up, like you can see here on my paper towel, there's quite a bit of ink that I'm picking up, and that's just coming off of my the places where I've embossed. It's not necessarily coming up from my card because most of that ink, other than the purple, has pretty much absorbed into my paper already. But you can see when I work at it here, so this blue area is actually back to white. There's still a little bit on some of these green areas and stuff like that that is not quite white, but the blue has actually gone back to white. And so look at how highlighted all of that color becomes. It's so cool. So you can use a baby wipe. Sorry, not a baby wipe. You don't want to use baby wipe with this because it's what is it? It's water reactive. So don't use baby wipe, but you can use a microfiber towel as well and go in and just continue to buff. These like so. Yeah, there, the green's coming off now. There we go. Yeah. Okay. Now, so you can see the areas here where it's gotten nice and it's much more clear. However, a lot of our shine has gone. So in order to bring the shine back, all you need to do, before I go and cook myself on my metal platform here, I'm going to bring back out my heat tool, and I'm just going to go back through and gently reheat, not burning, but reheating my embossing powder. Well, the places where I've already embossed. And that will kind of, by reheating it, it goes back to its original property. So in particular, it's not so bad when you're doing a fine lined stamp like this with heat embossing. But if you are doing something, let's say with silhouettes, like a silhouette stamp, like a big fairy or like a meadow or something like that, that is heat embossed, it's really nice to go back and reheat those items because you'll have this dull area. I mean, it's beautiful, brilliant color and everything like that, but you'll have this dull area versus if you just go back and take a moment and reheat it, it brings back all of that great shine. So you can imagine if that was like one big blocky silhouetted area, right? Okay, so let's create a card out of this guy here. Okay, so I really like how much color is on this, so I don't want to take it down too much. So I'm going to put this onto a square card. So the cards that I have, card bases that I have, are 5.5 by 5.5, and I know that already. So pull out my trimmer, and I'm fairly certain that I cut these. Yeah, so this is already trimmed, as you can see here, to 5.5. So I'm going to go through and I want to trim this down. I'm going to basically make this panel 5.25 by 5.25 all the way around. So I want to trim a little bit off of each side, and then it's longer on the edges. So I have a little bit more there to play with. And actually, I'm going to take this down to here and take them off the top. And if you don't have a guillotine trimmer like one of these, I highly recommend them. This one's Tim Holtz or Tonic Studios, Tim Holtz or whatever that is. And it's just brilliant because you never have to sharpen the blade. Never have to change out your blade. It's always the same. And you get these really beautiful, crisp lines. Okay, so this is now 5.25 by 5.25 all the way. So 5.25 square. And some of these, like some of these strips, if I trim these down, these will be beautiful strip cards. So I'm going to keep these edges because those will be really pretty. The colors on those are really nice. So I'm going to stick this down. Okay. And so just in general, I mean, I could do this any way that I wanted, but I tend to like to go top to bottom in rainbow order here. And so I'm going to kind of all eyeball this, put it on my front here. Very nice. And I picked out a few of my pre-prepped sentiments, and just so that I was ready. So I'm kind of liking, I've got this happy birthday. I've also got this really cool, I've got this happy birthday, and I've got these little Mickey Mouse whirligigs here, I guess, or his heads, whatever you want to call it. So I'm kind of, I think a sentiment, this could be kind of fun to do that and like that. And I like the white on the color, helps brighten it and make it look really fun and fancy. So that's really nice. That's an option. Another option could be is this, you brighten my life. Put it up here, down here. I really like this transition here. I don't want to cover it up a ton, but down in the center. Now you can also put this in the center too, but I tend to, when I'm doing something like this, I really like to have a lot of the card showing, because I could go in and put little gems or something here, which would be really pretty. Right? The other one that I have is I have a hello that has a shadow, and then this really cute it's an anchor. So I could do like this anchor and then do the hello across here. I don't think so. I don't think I want to do that. I also have a really lovely tree. That tree would be really quite nice. And then it could just be an everyday card, right? Like and then you just stamp your sentiment on the inside for whatever you're thinking. Oh, I think I like the tree. Thought I was going to do something else, but apparently going to do this. Actually, I think I'm going to save this one for the next one that I do. That is really quite lovely on there. Ooh, decisions. Nope, you know what? I am going to do the happy birthday. This, like this. And what I want to do is I want to add just a skosh of color to these guys. So I'm going to put these to the side. These to the side. And maybe this happy birthday on here. But I want to add just a tint Like not a lot because I still like the white and I don't brown out the colors that I've got on my card front. So what I'm going to do is just take what I've got left on my brushes here. So I don't want to add any more ink and I want to keep a lot of, I'm going to keep a lot of the white still. So I'm just going to go along the edge and I'm going to add a little bit of purple on the edge of this happy birthday. And then I'm going to do along the top, I want to do the blue. Like that. So I don't know how much that's going to pick up in the camera. I'll try and get a little closer here and I'll put it on the back of a card, on the back of this, so you can actually see the color. So you can see there's just a titch of purple and a titch of blue. So we're going to add that onto my card down here and it picks up the colors of where it's going to be sitting, which I think could be really pretty cool. So the nice thing is that this will be a really great little birthday card for my niece or my nephew. And so for the other two, I'm going to take a little bit of this green that's still on here. So because a rainbow, well, this particular rainbow has the 6 colors, I'll be able to do 2 colors on each one, keeping the white in the center still. Yellow at the top. For that one. Orange. Red. So I'm certainly not saturating this like I did when I was actually ink blending. This is very, very minimal color. Ink on the back of my card panel here. I'm going to wipe that up because I did just get more ink. Okay, more ink. Put that to the side. Okay, and just so you can see how much color I did add to those, let's put these on here. So I've got a red and a green, a little bit, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. And you can just see there's just a little bit of color on those, just to help it stand out a little bit off of there and kind of tie my sentiment in with my card panel, which will be nice. So because I'm going to be doing this for my niece or nephew, I'm probably not going to add a lot of jewels onto it, which I know a lot of you are just sitting there shocked and amazed that I'm not adding jewels to it. Okay, so this one up and it's my liquid adhesive. So the adhesive that I'm using here for my liquid adhesive, this is Barely Arts glue or adhesive, craft adhesive. It's very great. What's really nice about it is when you buy your first one, well, when you buy this size bottle, which is the 4 fluid ounces, it also comes, because I got mine from Amazon, it comes with the pin and the specialty tips and everything that you can use to get this really fine point so that you can add just like little bits of adhesive. You have so much more control, which is nice. Okay. So now I'm just going to go into the little points here. Like that. And again, this Barely Art glue will dry clear, so I don't have to worry about any of it squishing out or anything like that. It's not the end of the world. So you want to make sure that that's the kind of glue or adhesive, liquid adhesive that you're getting is something that will dry clear. That way then you don't have to worry about if you do have any seepage or anything like that. Okay, just because I'm too lazy to get my tweezers out at the moment. And okay, there. So I'm just slightly off center and I'm just going to put a little block on here to make sure that my adhesive is kind of squishing out and moving a little bit. Okay. I like that. that, but it might need, I don't know, see, I told you I wasn't going to put any bling on there, but I think it might need a piece or two. Okay, so these are little colorful flat-backed pearls that are really fun to use. And they just have some beautiful, beautiful colors. This particular one is a multi-pack and it comes in a variety of sizes. Well, the multi-pack comes with different sizes in it. And it allows you to just have so many different sizes of what you might need to use, etc. And so, okay, so I've got a blue one here. I'm gonna need a green, maybe right there. There's another green. I know there's all these connector points here. I can't just pass that up, right? It's like it's telling me, Kerming, we must have glitter. We must have some bloom. Hello. I think I have another yellow. Yellow. No. Have more yellow in there. Oh, well, there's an orange, so I'll pick that up over here. Oh, okay. Oh, I don't really have any yellow on the orange point. Maybe we'll do this one because this one's kind of orange here. And then I have a red. It's pretty deep red. And the ears. Well, there. And have a yellow. Maybe we'll switch these big yellows. And little yellows inside the Mickey Mouses. Sorry, I'm kind of talking to myself now, guys. Almost forgot that I was filming. Here's another yellow. Okay, so we've got reds, orange, yellow, green, blue. You see another green spot here, so really fine green. Tip over, tip over. I don't think I'm going to be able to get that one. That one's a little too fine. So we've got a blue. Let's see if we can get on the blue for here. Yep, right there. It's too big. Just enough to get in there. Okay. All right. Then we'll have to add something in here for little eyeballs there, but that might be noodle drops. Okay, so I'm going to put these away before I jostle them all and knock them all on the floor or something. These little triangular trays are just the beans. Oh, and I said I wasn't going to do that. Can't believe it. Clean that up later. Just get things off the card. I was so busy telling you about how cool this tray is that I neglected to close the blooming thing. Ooh. Okay, that's not on there. No. It's pink doesn't go in there. No, there's this blue. There we go. Okay, liquid adhesive done. All right. And let's pick this one. And I'll do this the other way. And off the blue. This jewel picker is very handy. I picked this up of Allie as well, but they use it. It's actually, if you're going to search for something like this, it's a, oh, look at this one. They use it for nail art and things like that. So if you find gem pickers or gem sticks or things like that, and what's really nice is that it's got a wax tip on the front of it. The white part is wax. If you are card making and you're picking up one, even the Crystal Katana has a black wax tip. You want to make sure though that, which is Crystal Katana is by Crafty Maraki, I think. Don't quote me on that. But it has a black tip on it. And if you scratch that on your card or on your paper here, it will make a mark. So whatever you're getting, make sure that it's got a white tip like this. And what's nice is it's got this really great little tip here, which helps you to sort things out, but also to push it into your adhesive or move it into place if you need to, like that. And yeah. Now, it would have been fun just because I had these colored pearls that worked really well, but you could also do clear ones on here, like raindrops or something like that, that would, if it'll pick up the colors that are behind it. So I think I got all of them. Put my pin back in my adhesive. So, yep, I got them all. I glued them all down. All right. So this is a great little colorful card. I think it's going to turn out one of my niece or my nephew will really enjoy that. I mean, they're both quite young, so truthfully, they're not going to care one way or the other. But I like the color. I like the sentiment. I like how fun it is with Disney on it and a little bit of bling bling. Anyway, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below in the comment section. I do make every effort to try and get back to people or answer if you have, if I've missed anything for sure. I definitely want to know, or yeah, let me know how you're liking them. If there's anything else that you would like to learn as well, please let me know, and I'll certainly do some research. If I know it, I'll do a video on it. If I don't know it, I'll do some research and then do a video on it. Yeah, thanks so much for watching. If you like the video, please give it a like down below. And yeah, thanks so much for joining me. Hope you all have a really great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.